Don't even have a wine glass because we don't have one in the office, but it's very good.
It's fine, man. Maybe next time you drink it directly from the bottle, which is even better.
British style,
Yeah,
right?
man. Hey, Dan. Welcome to A Glass of Marketing with Joe, and thank you for accepting the invite. The concept is pretty simple here. We're gonna have a glass of wine while talking about marketing, of course, personal and professional growth. But before getting started, what are you drinking today?
Hey, Gio, thanks for having me on your podcast. I think, as I told you, I love Italian white wine, and particularly Vermentino. Unfortunately, the local little Waitrose didn't have any Vermentino, so, but in your honour, I'm drinking Gavi. I don't even have a wine glass because we don't have one in the office, but it's very good.
It's fine, man. Maybe next time you drink it directly from the bottle, which is even better.
British style,
Yeah,
right?
man. Well, I'm drinking a glass of like a French wine. This is like a Chablis. It's actually
Nice.
a Chardonnay. So Chablis, it's one of my favorite Chardonnay. Actually, some people say that actually the original and the most perfect, pure Chardonnay is actually Chablis. So I really love this one. It's funny because I'm Italian and I'm drinking French, right? And you British, you're drinking Italian. So I mean,
Italian,
it's good,
yeah.
to mix. So thank you for that.
But
Yeah. So
Chardonnay is such a good one, right? It had a bit of a
I love
brand
it.
problem in the UK, but I like it a lot.
What problem did they have in the UK?
It was how can I put this nicely? It was seen as a bit down market. It was very
Okay.
popular in the 90s, and then people started calling their kids Chardonnay, and I think it damages the brand a little bit. So
I mean, I would love to call my kid as a grape. I mean, I think this is the right end of the podcast, right? Having my kids like Pinot Noir and Chardonnay or something like that. By the way, thank you for accepting the invite. You are actually the co-founder of Mad Fest London, which is one of probably the best marketing festival here in the UK. So, I mean, can you explain to my audience what you guys do and how did you start it?
yeah, sure. So thank you, Gio, for having me on your podcast. So I launched MadFest, which is Marketing Advertising Disruption Festival, in 2018 with my business partner. And we'd sort of worked around this sort of conferences, trade show space for far too long to remember. And we felt that there was a bit of a lack of innovation in the space. Lots of the events, whether they were retail, media, or pharmaceutical, kind of all looked the same. So I decided to quit my job, which feels like a very reckless thing to do, and then eventually raise some money to get MathFest off the ground. So we kind of built it on an idea that events really were providing the thing that people wanted in terms of great content, in terms of great connections, and it being sort of vibrant and fun. So we thought we would go out there, create a show where we get really top brands on stage, brands who are doing interesting things, try and give people inspiration, get the challengers involved, work on lots of innovation challenges, but also we work, and I guess it's a crucial point difference, we work on an invite-only basis. So it means that we're very quick to scale, and the show has grown since 2018 from 2,000 attendees through to, 12,000 plus this year. So it's been a journey. I'm sure we'll talk about aspects like COVID, etc., and how that's shaped the business. But yeah, it seems to have caused a bit of a groundswell here in the UK, and we love running it.
I mean, pretty cool. So you guys do it like once or twice a year? How many times a year you actually?
Yeah, twice a year would probably kill us. It's the show spans this year over a quarter of a square mile, so lots and lots of partners, lots of attendees, and we're working on lots and lots of partnerships as well. So it's a small team. I think we are 10 members of staff. Some people on the payroll, some contractors. Lots of us have known each other for many, many years. And we've created this thing which is really fun to work on. So, yeah.
So you work like 12 months for an event, essentially.
Essentially, yeah. We have a digital and training business as well. And we are looking to scale that up. But yeah, it's a year-round commitment. Once you start getting
So you
into,
build the audience through the event, and then you try to build other things on top, right? So it's more like an audience builder. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
exactly,
great.
exactly. I mean, our whole approach, I suppose, is audience-driven. So if you have the audience, if you have the community, then it gives you lots of interesting opportunities, be it,
It's very interesting, and probably one of the main reasons why I wanted you on the channel is that I would like to deep dive more like around event marketing, right?
Sure,
in a society
sure.
where everything is happening, I mean, not everything, but most of things are happening online. We have so many different marketing channels, right? Performance marketing. I mean, I work in paid media, so performance marketing is so cool because you can measure it. You can set the right KPI and just chase it. So you want click, you just get clicks. You want impressions, you just get impressions. You want leads, you just get leads. But I feel like in a society where there is always less human touch, I would say events are pretty cool. I feel like it's a great way to build connections, to inspire people. What's your view on events? Like, do you think are gonna become more important in the future? Do you think are disappearing?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and I think it depends on how you what lens you answer the question. Because if you're looking through sort of economic terms, there's no denying that there's been actually a shrink in the market. Lots of events disappeared after COVID and didn't really come back. I think what you do have is a situation though where real meaningful FaceTime is a precious and scarce commodity. So, in this digital world, which is fantastic in many different ways for the reasons that you've just explained, there is a huge value in people coming together and actually building those relationships face to face. So, the example that I always use is that, how many times have you had an email pitch, and it's, I guess, a question to you, and you think, oh, that sounds absolutely rubbish, I'm not interested, I'm not going to reply to the email. And then sometimes you end up having a face-to-face conversation and you have a completely different view of the product and service. And I think that, that's the way that we think about live events. People coming together, forming relationships, it all working hand in hand with digital marketing. I think that's the approach.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, when I look at it, I will split it in two components, right? One is the educational part. I feel like getting in touch with people as a student, as just like a professional that you want to learn more, and just getting on a stage as a speaker or like as an audience, you learn so much from the body language, from the energy, from the public speaking. So it's a very important growth opportunity. But then on the other side, I feel when we look at marketing, and especially B2B marketing, right, it's very hard to build a relationship and to sell services and products, if you want, online. Because as you said, how many cold emails you get every day? Then probably cold emails on a certain extent work, because if you think about it, you might send, 1,000 email a day. Even if two people reply to you, it's already a victory, right? Because I mean, it doesn't cost you much to just click and send, right? Now you have so many softwares that help you on that, right? But I feel like the value of building, human relationships. So I feel like these events like yours, from a B2B perspective, are really powerful, right? Because you can actually build the old school connections, right? Which is like humans meeting humans. Yeah, and it's pretty interesting. On the other side, I feel like when we look at like a digital events, because as you said, probably with the pandemic, a lot of people realize that you can actually run an event online. It's much easier to get special guests because they don't have to be there, so they just need to be online for 30 minutes. And probably it's much cheaper because, as you said, like hiring a venue, getting so many people, getting the sponsor, like it's a lot of work. Well, it's a lot of money. Where of course, if you do it online, it's much cheaper. So if you had to highlight, the pros and cons, online and offline, even for people listening and watching, what would you suggest to start with, and then what's your take on that, essentially?
Yeah, sure. So I'm quite fond of online events, and there's a personal connection really, and that is COVID hit in year two of our business. So we as a small business, had a situation where we had a few £1,000s in the bank account, and we didn't have a business, so we had to react very quickly and operate in the online event sphere. That effectively saw the business through a very, very challenging period, and it's enabled us to do some really, really cool things in terms of developing new products and services. But I think when whether it's a online event or an in-person event, the thing that you really need to focus on is how are you going to cut through? What is your differentiation? How is it distinctive? And I think, we have this idea of an attention economy whereby we're all vying for attention, which is bleedly and is a scarce commodity as well. And what is it that you're going to do? Is it through the brand, through the communications, through the model, through the content, through the way that you bring people together? And you can do that both online and offline. So I like both. I think the online events will become tough because it became really oversaturated. And I guess, online events, things like webinars are really good for top of the funnel stuff. I don't think you quite gain the meaningful connections. It's quite difficult to replicate that magic and serendipity of people coming together. But they certainly have a place in the overall marketing mix.
I agree with you. I mean, I find online events probably from a business point of view are pretty easy to start, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just a lead generation. You need to have a webinar. So it can come up pretty easily. But on the other side, I find it very boring because, at the end of the day, you're just watching another thing online. Where, I mean, as an audience, but also as a speaker, because I started, speaking at events, and I love the energy. I love meeting new people, and you learn a lot. Like, when I attend and I watch people that have more experience than me on stage, I love it. Like I learn a lot. And also my second job, I also teach at university, so I still like public speaking. It's slightly different because I'm speaking in front of an audience that don't know you for 10 minutes, 20 minutes is different than, speaking to students every day for like 2 weeks. So you build a different type of relationship. But, it's a great experience, and I'm a big fan of offline events. So, I mean, we get to a point where I feel like face-to-face interaction, in my opinion, it's getting more important over time. Because if you think about it, dating, it's online. Meetings, work meetings are online. So I think we're losing that touch, right? So I think also from a human perspective, I think it's a different adrenaline of, I mean, if I have to talk about my experience, for me, speaking in front of like 2,000 people online is a different adrenaline than speaking in front of like 100 people offline, so pretty cool to be fair.
Yeah, I think the dating analogy is quite a good one because, I'm at an age where you didn't really have online dating when I met my wife, and it was in some ways easier. The kind of idea with dating apps, you have infinite choice, and that doesn't necessarily always make people happy. But the idea of be it 10 people, 100 people, or 10,000 people coming together and spending quality time and getting to know each other. And there's in the business sense, I think that, you're forced into making some pretty good decisions there
No,
and
I
building
agree.
good relationships.
I think one of the biggest, I would say, challenges of this time is that everyone has the feeling that he has so many choices every day. If you think about it, social media, right? Ideally, you might have so many people liking your picture, right? And ideally, it's a mating opportunity. Apps, right? You see people, you just scroll left or right. So you think you have so many people out there. And I think it's the same thing with products, right? Like online, you want to buy a glass, you want to buy, I don't know, a jacket. You have so many choices, right? So the customer journey, now if we want to take it in marketing, the customer journey from awareness to conversion, which can be product, or can be like a partner. Of course, now I don't want to compare my girlfriend with like a pair of shoes, but what I'm trying to say is that infinite choice sometimes make people make the wrong choice, in my opinion, or even worse, don't make a choice at all, right?
Yeah, exactly. We get anxious. It's like choosing which restaurant to go to in Soho, right? If you've never been there before, it's almost impossible to make a decision. In terms of online events, they certainly have their place. I mean, we were operating online events. We had to think, look, how can we make this content really distinctive? And we came up with different formats. So we had Rory Sutherland, who I think you met yesterday, presenting a kind of cruise tour of his house, which is a very grand house in Kent. And it's sort of, you can do cool things like that. It's totally scalable. You can effectively speak to anyone in the world. We're having a glass of wine online today. I would probably rather be sat with you in a nice bar somewhere, getting our way through the wine list. But it's great that, we can do this, that the technology is there, that we can speak to anyone throughout the world.
Exactly. I promise next time we do it in a real wine bar. But yeah, like touching on the topic of Rory Sunderland, by the way. So you guys doing a master together, right? And then, as I mentioned, my second job is education. So I teach digital marketing in Milan. And I've seen like the education system evolving very fast, because if you think about it, and I mean, if we talk about marketing, right, technology is affecting the evolution of the theory of the subject as well, right? So probably before the internet, you had those theories of marketing, the marketing funnel, the 4 Ps, and the customer journey, which was, pretty simple and linear, right? Where today, because of technologies, like, the subject is evolving so fast that even like search, right? When you look at Google, when you look at SEO, like they're evolving so fast that if you don't look at Google for like 2 years, then you get back to it and you don't know how to do it, right? So I see on the other side universities are struggling to keep up, right? Because you need to have people coming from the outside to teach students how to do it, because the world outside is evolving fast. And probably also the role of universities is evolving, because if you think about it, the universities in the past were the source of truth, right? You went there because you had to learn from the real source, where today you can Google it. Even better, you can ask ChatGPT. So probably also the role of teachers, at least on marketing, is changing, because they need to be more practical. They need to drive you on the experience. It's more like learning by doing. And so I see a future where you see, I don't know, Google competing directly with universities, right? So how do you see that? How do you see the educational system evolving?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question. I'm going to borrow a little bit from Rory Sutherland here, and when you look at traditional education, the experience of going to university, learning marketing theory, etc. how often do you actually go back to those essays and look at the content and use them to inform decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis? Probably not very often. I would suggest that the value in it is the fact that you've done the research, you've compiled the data, you've constructed your argument, and I think that's the valuable skill that traditional education teaches. But there's no denying that the world is moving incredibly quickly. And as you say, what you learned at university or in an online training course 2 years ago might make no sense because of a change to the algorithms or a new disruptive technology that's come along. And I think, there's a really, really strong argument for learning and development within organizations to bring their teams on a journey to take a moment. This world that we live in, I'm sure, Giovanni, your working life, managing your emails, managing campaigns, speaking to stakeholders, etc. There isn't a moment to actually stop and think and question, are you doing things the right way? And I think, for that reason, L&D really should be prioritised. And there's definitely a place for online courses, for hybrid courses that actually focus on, here are some of the things that are unchanging, some of the theory, some of perhaps the laws of human behaviour. And here are the things that are coming along and changing again. And I think it's important for marketers, who are the people who are seen to be leading their organisations through those change, to actually update themselves and make sure that not only do they have the bedrock of knowledge, but they also have, the information and the intelligence when things are changing or shifting in a different direction.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then if you think about it, I always say that probably in the past, you finish university and you're like, okay, now I quit studying forever. I get job, I get my salary, and I go on with my life, right? I can finally, get on with it. Have a family, have fun, use the money I'm earning to have fun, right? So finally I'm free. And I think it's not like that anymore, because if you think about it, and AI accelerate the process, you need to keep up. You need to keep up every day. You need to keep studying. Like, I find myself studying almost every day. I need to keep myself updated with the new tools, with the new functionalities of each platform, because it's a continuous studying and learning. Now, if you are a curious person, if you have a passion for that it's easier. But I also put myself in other people's shoes, where the industry is going so fast that, let's be honest, studying is tiring as well. Like, after a long day of work, you don't want to study about, the new Google Ads update, the new Amazon update, the new, AI tool. Definitely, in my opinion, is making hiring more difficult, because today you need less people. Let's be honest. If in the past you needed 5 interns, today you can just have 2 interns and have AI being the other 3 interns, if you prompt it in the right way. So of course prompting is another job, is another skill set. But actually, it's hard to keep up every day, and some people are tired, and I get it. So probably the role of the new managers is actually being like, okay, you know what, you should work 8 hours today, work 4 hours, work 5 hours,
absolutely.
and take the other 3 hours to just study.
Yeah, absolutely. Friday afternoon study time. I think it's crucially important. You hear some scary stuff about AI, not just about the technology, but it's also, the way that some people think, perhaps incorrectly, that it can replace a whole raft of roles. I don't think it's there in a lot of industries right now. But I think unless you make yourself indispensable, unless you update yourself and invest in your own personal development, then it's going to be very difficult for you to navigate your career. And as a manager and managing teams or leading brand campaigns for big global advertisers, your team are quickly going to lose the required skill set. So I think it should be almost mandatory that actually, you have a proper learning and development program and you actually are guiding staff through all these changes, through the nuances and all of the noise, it's such a noisy world. Think about AI it's going to take all our jobs through to, it's going to do your homework, whatever it may be, you need to make balanced decisions in all that. And people need information, they need to give themselves the time to think and make their own decisions.
Yeah, and probably I think if you look where the technology is going, I feel like in the future we will have more time because you can automate a lot of stuff, even like writing emails. I find myself now writing emails with a lot of typos, and then I just ask Grammarly or ChatGPT to improve it, right? So every email I'm probably saving a lot of time. So you have a lot of time that probably I hope in the future we can spend more time with our loved ones, with doing our hobbies, like following our passion. So I try to have a romantic view of the future. Of course, I'm Italian, so I try to keep that romantic side up. And yeah, I feel like I hope we have more time to enjoy our life and work less, because the return on investment will be much higher. At least I hope that. And then moving to
I love that there's a little plugin on Google called Voicing.
Okay.
So you just dictate emails with your voice, and I think it's a good example of technology where actually, if you spend a little bit of time getting to use it and you get better at it, it makes you so much more efficient. In terms of the way that you compose emails,
100%,
all of that stuff. I think about dyslexic people, for example. It's we think about being productive as sat on our laptop. If we're tapping our fingers really, really quickly, then we must be working hard. And I think, there's simple technologies that could actually just make us more productive when we're all on board.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's changing so many things. So I think it's great in so many ways. And then just moving to another topic. So the other day we met and we were talking about embracing accidental innovation, and I think we were laughing about it because that happened to me many times, where you start with a project, so probably you want to go A and you end up doing C. So how do you see that? How do you manage that? Because I think we need to embrace change. We need to embrace innovation, because you usually start with an idea, you end up to another place, right? Which sometimes is even better, right? So how do you do that? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I suppose I'm a big believer in sort of innovation, testing things, and actually taking the odd crazy leap, the odd risk, and just trying something because you think it sounds kind of cool. So I guess I've got two examples of this. I told you earlier, Gio, back in 2020, we were thinking, oh shit, we haven't got a business here. COVID is here. How are we actually going to get through? Virtual events was, as I said, the way through all of that. What that actually taught us to do was to have some digital content production skills. It wasn't a choice that we made, it was just something that we were forced to do to get us through a specific period. And actually thinking about your existing skill set, which was running events, and then combining this new stuff that we could have learned, was how we launched Math Masters, Viral Priorities. So it's provided a whole new revenue stream for the business. I think it's personally really exciting to bring the world of events and training together. And I think it's probably a good example of, we think about innovation as here's a shiny new piece of AR, metaverse, AI stuff. And actually sometimes just thinking about commercial innovation, changing a business model, changing the way how we charge for these, can have a really, really significant effect on the business. The other story I was going to tell you about was when we set up MadFest, we didn't have much money, and we didn't have a huge VC backer behind us who was going to bankroll the show for 3 years whilst it made a loss. It had to work from day one. So we thought, how can we actually make this look bigger than it actually appears? So we went out and did a load of brand partnerships with the likes of, over a few years, Diageo, Dashin, Campari, Heineken, etc. And that created something that I never thought we would see in Maverick, and never envisaged. And it was a whole sort of product sampling side of the business to get products, food, drink, etc., into the hands of attendees. I had no idea that that would be a good thing to do. I hear that there's a good amount of marketing theory that says partnerships are the good way to grow brands, but I haven't read any of it, and it just sounded like a good thing to do.
I mean, on partnerships, and this is actually a very odd topic for me because I'm actually looking for sponsors. So, hey guys, please come to me
for the podcast. For the
podcast. And I feel like when you look at it, right, it's from the outside, it's very easy to find sponsors, but like from the inside, it's very, very hard because you need to pitch, you need to prove and offer something in exchange. So how do you do that? Do you have any advice, actually, to me? Like, do you have any advice to find sponsor? How do I do that?
I would say wine is a really, really good start. I think you're on the right lines there. Going out and meeting people, building a relationship, building the trust in what you do. I think with any product or service, it's kind of what I was saying earlier, that unless you can see it, feel it, and believe it, it's very, very difficult because our inboxes are overloaded with pitches all of the time. So the way that I guess, I think MadFest was able to successfully grow was first of all thinking, look, what's the USP? For us, it was about creating a big audience of buyers of marketing products and services and doing it at a really interesting scale. And then I think, the other part of the battle is that we're all vying for attention. You've got to do something that's distinctive. And I think, hopefully when you look at the sort of tone of MadFest and the brands, the leery colours, the bright yellow, the pink, it's not traditional conference branding, and people like seeing something that is unique or different in some way.
I agree with you. I feel like people want to have fun, and this is very underestimated as well. This is why I also launched this video podcast, is because I go to all of these conferences, panels, and sometimes I find it a little bit boring. I mean, the content is great, but it's boring. So I try to give it fun, and I feel like wine can help,
It's a time-honoured cultural tradition. The other thing I would recommend is, for anyone starting up a business, you can't know everything. I think one of the accidental things that just kind of happened was teaming up with a business partner, because expecting an individual to be good at sales, at marketing, at data, at content, operations, logistics, you cannot do all of those things well. I've got a brilliant business partner, Ian, who leads on the commercial side of the business, and I think we work really, really well together because we have different but complementary skills.
Totally agree with you when you say you can find people that are very good at everything. Like you need specialists, and you need to understand what you are good at, but most of all what you are not good at, and
Absolutely.
let other people do it for you. I think the challenge that most of founders have is that they are stingy, they don't want to spend money, they don't want to pay for specialists, they want to do everything by themselves. And I think you can't really do that. I think you need to build the right team, you need to pay the people the right amount, because happy people make happy companies, happy projects. So, I completely agree with you, man. And then moving on
you might be able to do it for a bit, but once the business reaches a certain scale, you need to pass the baton on, bring other people who've got good skills who can help them scale.
And it makes sense. I mean, you need to make sure that every stakeholder is gaining something, is winning, because it's at the end of the day, it's always a team. It's never one person.
absolutely.
And then like moving to the other, part of my video podcast, so usually we start talking about, professional growth, but then we move to personal growth.
Sure.
I mean, we usually talk.
Time to pour another glass of wine.
Please do, because this this is actually when we need more wine, actually. So yeah, I'm gonna have a sip as well.
Cool. Excellent.
So yeah, we usually talk about work-life balance, and my third episode, actually, Giuseppe Stigliano says, "There's no work-life balance; it's work-life integration." Probably it's just a way to say he's a workaholic and he needs to integrate it. But what's your take on that? Do you believe in a work-life balance? Do you think work-life integration is the solution? And if yes, how do you integrate that?
It's an interesting one. So my wife is a journalist, and she comes from a B2B background as well. She's run big events. She's worked in she's trade journalism. So effectively, we do pretty similar things for our careers. She understands my rules, I understand her rules. As I suppose, unless there is a degree of passion for what you do, it's going to make for very, very boring chat at home. If I hated my job and I spent all my day speaking to my wife about how much I hate my job and vice versa, it's unhealthy. Fortunately, we're both passionate about what we do. We help each other out with challenges. We have a very, very busy life. We have a 3-year-old boy. We recently moved out of London down to the coast as well, and you I guess, need to be a partnership to make all of this stuff work and to have a happy life. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that you can't have a complete separation. It's very difficult to have a complete separation between the thing that you do most of the day and your home life. So I think having a child changes everything as well, because sometimes you just have to stop working for whatever reason. You cannot separate your time into perfectly neat blocks. Just doesn't work. So it kind of, there are advantages and disadvantages of this sort of always on culture that we have. I work at strange times, my wife works at strange times, but we have more flexibility. We don't have to go to an office 5 days a week. And, it's all about finding the right balance for you. And this sort of idea that you go to the office once or twice a week, you work remotely part of the time when you really, really need to get your head down, but you kind of have more free time for your family because you're not traveling quite so much. I think that kind of works right for us, and it will always change and it will always evolve.
No, I agree with you when you say that technology is allowing a better work-life integration. So I feel like we all agree with Giuseppe Stigliano when he says work-life integration. And I feel like you can actually do it online, because you can choose to spend the morning with your kid, and then you can work in the evening while your kid is sleeping. So I think probably this is one of the best gifts that technology gave us, right? Because we actually more free. But on the other side, if you don't know how to use it, and I know a lot of people that spend the all day just working.
So out of interest, as an Italian who spends half of your life presumably in the UK, sometimes in the Netherlands, I think, as well, but also teaching in Milan, we think of the Italians as very family orientated. How is business culture changing in Italy, and what do you think the differences and similarities are?
It's a great question. Thank you for the question. I love it, by the way. Yeah, no, thank you. Probably a lot of Italians are gonna hate me now, but I think the working culture in the UK is much better than in Italy, because and I've noticed that the first moment I moved here, and then, to be honest, I started working in the UK. I did some internships in Italy, but I mean, I don't even know how to write an email in Italian anymore. Like, I'm serious. So
We've got ChatGPT, right?
yeah, of course. And to be fair, man, I feel in the UK, at least, there is more respect. So there is working hours, but then that after 5:30, that people have a life outside of work, and they need to enjoy that. So there is also more respect. I also like, on the other side, some people call it in England, the fake polite, society where everyone is always sorry. There are those memes where, and at the first moment you get in the UK, everyone is like, sorry. Which, at the beginning I didn't like it because you can tell that sometimes people don't mean it. But at the end of the day, I think it's good manners, right? If you had a bad day, at some point, I don't care if you really mean it or not, but you're sorry. At least, you play it well. So I feel like then if you put it at work, I feel like there is much more respect. People can actually split between working and having a life outside of work. I tell you this story. So I remember my first job in London. I was working for IPG Media brand, actually Reprise Media. And I remember everyone was working 9 to 5. And because I had my Italian, way of seeing things, I was actually, every day, I was staying at the office until 8 p.m., working hard, because, of course, I have a passion, but I also wanted to prove that I was an hard worker. Well, I remember after 1 week, my manager comes to me and he says, Joe, are you all right? Why are you working every day so late? And I was like, mate, I just wanna, I'm a hard worker. I wanna prove that I wanna get promoted. I wanna grow. And he said, yeah, I get it, but this is not the right way, because people look at you like you are not able to finish things on time. So you actually giving the other impression, the opposite impression. So instead of looking like an hard worker, you look like you're slow. So if you wanna work harder and you wanna work twice the amount you should do it from home. Because this is not the right way. And by the way, you make me look like I'm not the right manager, because I make you work long hours. So you look bad and I look bad. So please go home. And I think,
sound and vibes.
And I think this is really representing the British culture. Where on the other side, I feel, Italy is changing, by the way, right? Because, people like me are getting back. People, are, realizing that it's not just about working, but also like happy people make more efficient and effective work, right? So I think now we're moving in the Nordics where, the people are trying to work 4 days a week instead of 5. So I think we will get there, and Italy is getting there. But short answer is, I think in Italy, people work much more than in the UK, and it's weird because when you look at it from the outside, I don't know what's your point of view, but a lot of people think that Italians are not hard workers. You look from the outside, and there is this meme of Italians just drinking espresso and not doing much every day. So it's not actually like that.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a stereotype, but I think presenteeism in this day and age is just really silly, isn't it? I think that it's really important for you to, it's a cliche to work smart, but it's a cliche for a good reason. Okay, so sometimes you need to show flexibility to your work. Sometimes your work needs to show flexibility to you. One of my passions in life, I've surfed since I was 7 years old, and I'm 41 now. I still suck at it, but if there are waves at 4 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, I go surfing, and that is good for me. It's good for your mental health. It's good for your creativity. And the amount of times when I've just had an idea or come up with a sort of really innovative way to fix a problem, loads of examples of that. And I think, employers and individuals, as long as there's a mutual trust and respect, that you don't take the piss, Either of you don't take the piss as an employer as well as the employee. I think you can have a much healthier balance between, your work life and what you like to do at home.
Yeah, I think you said two things that are very important: mental health, and I think there is more awareness around it. I feel like also after the pandemic, because a lot of people with the lockdown, they started struggling, right, with depression and everything. So I feel like mental health is key, and work plays a big role there. But on the other side, I feel like being creative, right? For example, I love running, right, and all the best ideas I have.
Right.
I have those ideas when I'm running, right? So because you look at the bigger picture, you have space to think. You don't have to always focus on. Oh, yeah, it's a matter of finding a balance, and then getting to the last point, and it's already a tradition. We always ask this question. What's your definition of success? Because I feel like in a society where everyone wants to be rich, everyone wants to be successful, and sometimes money and success go together. And everyone wants to win, and no one wants to lose. Of course, on social media, we only see victories, right? So you upload pictures when you're happy. You don't upload pictures when you're crying. We should actually have a new social media where you just post when you are unhappy. That would be a cool idea. Maybe not. But what's your definition of success? How do you define success, and what's your way to find it?
It's a really, really interesting question. I don't necessarily have a brilliant way of articulating this, but Ian and I, that's my business partner, we're both a little bit naughty, and we were told years and years ago that there's a way of doing things, and every single line of copy you have to produce is to be benefit driven, and you have to make things look very serious and corporate, and that was the way that you did things. And actually what MadFest has taught us is that you can create and scale a very, very differentiated and distinctive business by backing your ideas, by being a bit naughty, by being a bit creative, by trying to get a reaction, sometimes being a little bit controversial. And it really, really gives you a huge amount of professional and personal satisfaction when we see the things that we find funny and interesting resonating with our audience, people saying that they like our marketing and deciding to book some sponsorship with us, people enjoying the events because they look like other events. And I think it's life is a journey where we all have different skills and attributes. I'm not a particularly analytical person, but if we can somehow translate the creativity and magic that we have within us into the business world, into the products, into the businesses that we launch as entrepreneurs, then I think that gives me satisfaction and see all of those things come off. And it's not just crazy stuff that was in your head. You can see the real impact that it has on the world. Of course, we want to make some money. Of course, we want a thriving business. We want to build the business. But I think it starts on that sort of slightly playful little bit of naughtiness that we both have in us.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's the same reason why I started this video podcast, is that I was trying to have fun with people that work in my same industry and learn while having fun, right? So, I mean, yeah, thank you for accepting the invite, by the way. I would say
No problem.
cheers to fun, cheers to enjoyment, and cheers to being light while being professional as well, I would say. Thank you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers, Joe. It was a pleasure. Really, really, really good fun to be on the pod. And I'm sure you'll find that sponsor really, really soon.
Hopefully.